CBA meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to open case number
4306.
4306.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is so much different.
I know. This is the first time we've had 5 people together at this week.
We've been virtual and everything.
Yeah, it's a virtual, okay, that's tough.
It is.
Okay, oh, I have a front page.
You read it in the last time anyways.
Oh, I did?
Yep.
Okay, well, in that case, would you like to explain what
Well,
good.
let me make a motion to waive the reading of the abutters and take the answers to question A just written.
Second? All in favor?
Actually, I'm
Aye.
not sure if I can vote on this yet, so somebody else should second that.
I'll second it.
All right,
Seconded and everybody accepts.
so I'll abstain.
Okay.
So before you start, I am confused. Was somebody else here last meeting for this?
No.
Okay,
We don't have anybody else.
There was
that's what I
no,
thought, but I just want to make sure.
that-
So was it the 4 of you here last meeting?
yes, there was no testimony taken.
Okay.
Begin. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Kevin Goggin. I'm from Stoughton and Stores at 400 Atlantic Avenue. With me this evening is John Alvarado, Director of Real Estate Development for Costco. He's with us virtually. And to my right is John Harder, the Senior Vice President for Atlantic Traffic and Design, who did the traffic impact analysis for this project. We are here this evening to discuss the proposed members-only fuel facility at the existing Costco wholesale warehouse at 120 Stockwell Drive. I know most of you are familiar with the site. This is, right off of the Stockwell Drive here. You can see this is the Jordan. I should note that this side plan right is north. This is south. Just to the south of the property, you've got Jordan's. Just to the north, you've got IKEA. This here that you can see outlined in pink is the current property that Costco owns. This area that's shaded in yellow is property that Costco has under agreement with the owner. The area in yellow is where the proposed fuel facility will go, if approved. We are here tonight as a first stop and a number of approvals that we would need to get for the fuel facility to go forward. We need a special permit for use from the ZBA here. We also need to go before the planning board for a site plan review. We would also need to go before the Conservation Commission for an order of conditions. This property is also partially located in Avon. We'd have to go through a similar process in Avon. We need to get a, so we would have to go through a similar process in Avon, where we would get a special permit from them as well, and site plan review. Their planning board would handle both of those, and would be before the Conservation Commission there as well, to get an order of conditions. So our thought process, just to give a little bit of back and forth, we talked with members of staff here and as well as Avon. The idea was to get the special permits first, take comments, then go to the Conservation Commissions and the planning boards for site plan review simultaneously. Hopefully at that point, we're working off a single plan set and only making minor changes at that point. This evening, we'll go over the relief requested, which I mentioned in the intro. We're here for a special permit for the proposed use, which requires obviously a special permit, and that's for the fuel facility use. John Alvarado, who I mentioned earlier, he'll talk to the Costco's project goals and briefly go over the project description. I'll then talk to just the existing site condition. John Harder, to my right, will walk you through the plan itself and how traffic operations will work for this. Will come back to me. I'll just talk to a little bit to how the project complies with the special permit criteria, And we have a slide at the end for questions, but, obviously if anything arises it's probably just better to have more of a conversation as soon as we can, so, feel free to ask us as things arise as well. So, as I mentioned, relief requested from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is a special permit to allow the proposed use as a motor vehicle light service station, including the sale of gasoline. This is table of use 3.14, and I should have noted in there as well that that's also use D17 in there. And the special permit according to section 10.5 of the bylaw.
So no, you're not gonna do diesel?
I'm not sure if we would do diesel. I can ask John if he knows that, but is that a separate use category?
No, I would just assume that you get gasoline there, so when they're writing the decision, you would think you would want that in there.
I'll check with John. John Alvarado might be able to answer that now.
Okay.
John, do you typically have diesel as part of the operation?
Now, we do have in some look. First, good evening, everybody. My apologies. I was planning to be in person, but I have some issues with my flights, so I had to be virtually. For the record, my name is John Alvarado. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development. My address is 45940 Horseshoe Drive, Suite 150 in Sterling, Virginia. 2166 is the zip code. So to answer the question, we do have in some locations diesel, but we're not planning to have diesel in these locations.
I didn't,
No diesel in this location.
okay.
And John, we have you. Would you mind speaking through some of Costco's goals for this project?
Yeah, if some of you are members of our company or stores, warehouses, we always try to give, back to our members, the best service that we can. And we've been going through all our existing warehouses that we don't have gas to try to bring gas for our members. Gas has become one of our best services that we provide to our members, and that's one of the the intentions here. Normally, we have really competitive gas prices that will benefit people in the community. We design our gas stations, as you know, members only. So just for members. And the way that this is being thought and designed is so we can get our members as fast as we can through the lines and provide the service. With this project exactly, we're gonna be providing gas. We're gonna add in some additional parking, some additional landscaping, improving wayfinding signages. That's overall. So our company goal is to provide all the service that a new warehouse provides when we open a new warehouse, so we can retrofit existing warehouse the same way.
Thanks, John. And then, John, I don't know if you can see this. Would you like to speak to the operations here of just how it typically works at one of the fuel facilities?
Yes. Normally we have when we build a new warehouse with a fuel facility is 4 dispensers wide with 4 dispensers deep or 3 dispensers deep. Due to the constraint of this site, we're proposing to have a 3 dispenser wide by 4 deep. So a total of 12 pumps with 24 fueling positions. Between each fueling lane, we normally have a pass-by lane, so you don't have to wait until everybody finishes, so you can drive around comfortably. Again, everything is designed with enough room and space that you don't have to do any weird maneuvers to get to any of the pumps. Also, we have some signage that will help people move around the food facility. We don't have any convenience store. Normally we have 1 attendant or 2, depending to help members when they have maybe issues or they don't know how to use the pumps. But no convenience store. It's just members getting there, putting fuel. Also, we provide long hoses, so it doesn't matter where you tank gas is, you can fuel in any other side of the vehicle. That's the overall functionality of the fuel facility.
Thanks very much, John. And then just talking to the existing conditions, I showed that aerial earlier on. Same thing. This side of the plan is north. Here's south here, Stockwell, and the roundabout there. The site, as I mentioned, part of it is here in Stoughton, and then part of it is in Avon. The fuel facility, let me stick to the existing conditions. The warehouse itself, that's been in existence since the early 90s. It was permitted through the Zoning Board of Appeals. Right now, it's got approximately 550 parking spaces out here, with access coming off of Stockwell Drive. This piece here, this is the lot 17, which is under agreement. This is not currently owned by Costco, but as I said, they have a purchase and sale with the owner. This is approximately 2.5 acres of undeveloped land, all within the industrial zoning district in Stoughton. So all the property, both the existing piece owned by Costco and the piece to be acquired, is all within the industrial zoning district.
How many spaces did you say is currently there?
Currently 550, approximately 550. It might be 551 to be exact. I have that on the existing conditions plan. It is right, 551. And I'm going to turn it back over to John so he can talk through a little bit of the operations and some of how it would work with the traffic improvements that are being proposed. Switch, you have control of that,
sure.
or you tell me whatever.
Yeah, or maybe you can I could just pass the. Okay. Good evening. A little background. I'm John Harter, Harter, like Carter with an H. Our firm's worked for Costco over 20 years, and we're based in New York, New Jersey. My office is 30 Independence Boulevard in Warren, New Jersey. But we have worked on Dedham, Danvers, Waltham, Everett in Massachusetts. I'm licensed as a civil engineer here in about 10 states. So a lot of experience with Costco. We're working, as like John Alvarado described earlier, on some new warehouses, expansions to fuel, additions like this for fuel stations. As John said, this is the standard now, 24 fueling positions. Dedham, just by comparison, has 16. It's an older site. 12 was the original design. The existing conditions, am I able to zoom in, or I'm probably going to have trouble on that, aren't I? Okay, I'll just try to move the cursor and describe. So we're northeast of the roundabout formed by IKEA Way and Stockwell Drive, and there's some it's a unique Costco. I can't think of another one that has just a 2-lane access road that leads into a Costco and provides all of its access. When you exit the site and you're heading towards the roundabout, there are 2 lanes, as I mentioned. You'll pass the Jordan's Furniture access at a T intersection, and that's an unusual T intersection because normally you'd have the secondary side street or driveway. In this case, you just have a stop control there. This is a T intersection actually with 2 stop controls, the westbound outbound movement from Costco and Jordan's. It doesn't work very well. We see motorists during Saturday when we did counts. That's much busier than the weekday peak hours. The Saturday was by far the heaviest volume of traffic. And you commonly see motorists going through the stop line, not really stopping as they come out. And capacity-wise, that Saturday we found that it is not operating very well. Costco's quite active on Saturday. The roundabout has limited capacity. It's just a single lane roundabout today. The only exception to that is northbound as you approach on Stockwell. You do have 2 lanes on that approach, but that's the only case. The other backup issue that we see exiting Costco on Saturday, we saw about 400 feet of queuing. So from the roundabout on that westbound approach back into the site, blocking several of the cross aisles as you enter the site. The other issue that is not desirable in the existing condition is that as you enter the site, on Stockwell Drive. To your right, on the perimeter, there's an area of parking that has about 30, sorry, it's hard to see the mouse, here we go. There's a small parking lot to your right that has about 30 spaces, and that's quite awkward because just as you enter the site, there are essentially 2 aisles on your left that come into the main aisle. Then you have that small perimeter parking with the third aisle. So you have a limited capacity with 2 lanes, and then you have essentially 3 aisles kind of coming together there. Not very desirable. So we looked at all of those factors, and we're trying to improve those conditions to the site. So should I go to the?
I would just click and you'll hit this one next.
Okay. All right, so this is the proposed condition zoomed in to the area where we have improvements for site circulation and parking, etc. So starting at just the fuel facility, maybe I can try to describe that a little bit about the circulation. So there's a one-way flow in, as John Alvarado described, different than a small fuel station where you have movements backing in. We've designed this so that it's all flows in one direction. There should be no need for backing up movements. And as you come in, you would make a right and enter and head in the northbound direction one way through. We have the stacking for the facility, if you include the 24 fueling positions, and the stacking area, there's 100 feet behind for each of the 6 approach lanes. And if you include this area leading back out to the access, we have about 60 vehicle spaces, so a very generous amount of stacking for Costco. And then the other aspect of the design that's really great is the spacing between, as you approach the dispensers in one row, the spacing is actually 28 feet between the center of the first dispenser to the next and the following. And that enables that just a forward movement into each space. And there are also green and red indications lights above each fuel position. So if you're waiting in the queue, you can, and someone in the middle of the dispensers moves out and moves forward, they know that they can pull forward and enter that space. So it's very efficient. We've also, as I was describing that outside parking, about 30 spaces, that's been eliminated. So we've realigned the main access out to be straighter, and now we've gotten rid of that parking. There's a wall proposed here, and now we have the access aisle coming in. We don't have that aisle that leads to that parking, so that eliminates conflicts. And now we simply have, at this location, the outbound movement from the fuel, so the circulation comes out of the fuel facility, and you exit here in a one-way flow, and then this is a one-way aisle southbound. So if you're just getting fuel, for example, you can leave and go back out efficiently. So this movement would allow you to recirculate back to the fuel or exit. We are not intending to allow a left, so again, keeping the number of conflicting movements down. The reason you might want to make a right and go back into the fuel facility is if you wanted to go back and for some reason either continue back to park, and that way as I said, you wouldn't have to make a left here, so that was a desirable change. Today, as I described, there's just 2 lanes on Stockwell in this area and very little capacity as a result. So with the widening that we're looking to make on either side of Stockwell, we would go from 2 to a 4-lane cross section. And that will really improve the current flow that we see today. So I'll describe, as you are heading north on Stockwell, make a right at the roundabout and go towards the Jordan's furniture access. The eastbound lanes will open up to 2 lanes, so you'll have one that would be ultimately a left turn only lane that gets you access into the fuel with signage, and the right curb lane will provide either a right or a through, so right into Jordan's or a through to Costco. So much more capacity entering and very clear limited conflicts at this location. For exiting movements, we have the single lane coming out of the site as today, and it has its own receiving lane. And then there's a second lane opens up westbound as well, which can serve the volume coming out for gas customers that may not go to the warehouse and are exiting. And as they proceed, instead of a single lane westbound, as you get to the roundabout, you'll now have 2 lanes. And that will significantly increase capacity as well. We have a left-only lane that would allow you to go around the roundabout and then go south on Stockwell. And then we have a through right lane to either go to IKEA or west to IKEA Way to exit the site altogether. So we really have, I think, made a great improvement in terms of volume and handling more volume, reducing vehicle queues with this improvement. And we would now create this as more of a traditional T intersection. We're proposing to stop Jordan's only on that approach, that minor approach. And even I think we found that Jordan's would operate better too, because by providing this 4 lanes of cross section instead of 2, we get much more capacity, so they'll have more opportunity to turn out. I think the last point in terms of parking, we would be adding a total of 22 spaces overall. Outside of this view, if you continue proceeding into the site on the main access, at the southeast corner of the site, we've added a perimeter area of parking with requiring a wall because of grading, and that'll get us about 22, I think about 17 spaces in that area. But overall, 22 spaces added to the overall site. Kevin, I think that covers
That's
it.
it. Yeah, and I'll do the one last one. The final item that we wanted to hit on, which is compliance with the special permit criteria. And we did include as part of the application, it's tab 1A in all of this, but we wanted to hit some of the brief points just to read it into the record. But in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, this is an industrial zone district. This is a special allowed use by special permit here, one of the few places in town where it is permitted. And this is an undeveloped piece of property that's long been unused, so it would be a higher and better use than its current state. Beneficial impacts outweigh any potential adverse effects. The economic benefits, you would be expanding the tax base here. And when we talk to some of the financial impacts later, this is one of, John mentioned this when he was talking about Costco's goals. Costco has a nationwide program where they're trying to, any new store would have gas included. The warehouses that have been around for a while, they're trying to bring fuel to all of those as soon as they can. As John mentioned, they've been doing this at a number of different places across the state and across the country. So this is part of their nationwide goal to make sure that they keep their members happy, and that they have basically a convenience that other members at other locations receive. But to get back to the beneficial impacts, expanded tax base and a higher use, social, economic, or community needs. This provides a convenient access to quality fuel at a competitive value. Traffic flow and safety, I'll defer to John on that. I think he went over that. I won't go through that again with you. Adequacy of utilities and other public services. There's no adverse impact on any of the town's utilities or services. Neighborhood character and social structures. This is consistent with the surrounding areas. At the beginning when we went through orientation on the site, you've got Jordan's just to the south, you've got IKEA just to the north, and other commercial users like Florida Core is there as well. Impacts on natural environment, the best management practices in place to prevent adverse impacts. I should also note, even though there's a long stormwater report in here, this does the increased facilities that will come with it, sort of the improved facilities will enhance stormwater treatment. Lastly, potential fiscal impacts, as I mentioned, increasing the assessed property value, stabilizing the tax revenue for Costco, who's I don't want to
Just get close. For example, whatever it says.
And then obviously during construction, there will be construction jobs during that time period as well. And one thing I just wanted to do quick, we'll obviously take questions, but I wanted to show one. This was the area that John talked about down here, and you see some of those improvements, and that's where the additional parking will be. This is all part of the Avon portion of the site here, though, obviously.
So where's the actual town line?
Right here, so this one you can see it, this was a good plan for it. this line that sort of bisects through, right there. The whole fuel facility itself, all the pumps and stations are here in Stoughton, over here in Stoughton.
Okay, that's what
Here we go.
basically the question is.
Where are they putting the tanks?
West of the fuel facility. I didn't touch on the drop off for the tanker truck, but the fuel tanks are just in this area. And the tanker truck stays outside of the fuel facility, so it doesn't enter. The earlier Costco facilities had the drops within the queuing area, which really disrupts the operation, so all new sites are laid out in this manner.
Have any idea how many gallons it's gonna be?
Oh boy, I'm not good on the gallons. That our site engineer, who's not here this evening, is, you know.
You're asking how many gallons of
Well-
storage we're gonna have?
Yeah,
Tanks.
how big a tank are they?
Yeah, we have, we have 3 tanks of, if I'm not mistaken, 40,000 gallon tanks. So it will be 3, so it's gonna be 120 total. And the idea is, this program have evolution, through the years. Before at the beginning, we had just 15,000 gallon tanks, and we found that we have to have more trips of the tanker to keep the fuel storage. So now with bigger tanks, we're using the amount of trips for the tankers go through the site, and sometimes when they go through the site while the warehouse is in operation of the gas, it's an interruption that we try to avoid that headache to the members.
Also, are they gonna be, refueling the tanks during the day, at night? Actually, wouldn't make much difference there. Nobody's there at night to worry about.
One item I should note, and it's on this one. One thing we would request is that the hours of operation would be that the fuel facility itself would open at 6 a.m. and it would close 1 hour after the clubhouse closes. The warehouse closes.
And to expand a little bit in that is, we like to open the fuel facility early, so we have the opportunity for members that are going to work, so they can stop, fuel, continue to the workplace. And 1 hour after the warehouse closes, because any of our members that are finishing shopping before closing, so they have enough time to finish their shop and then put gas before they leave.
And that's,
Okay.
that's 7 days a
Something
week,
else?
right?
Yes, 7 days a week.
Something else to add, like at night, after closure, there's no lights, there are no signs, there's no advertisement. We don't put like the typical boards that you see in a regular gas station, advertising pricing. Normally that price is inside the warehouse, when you come in or when you exit the warehouse. Normally we just have a couple security lights, just for security purposes, but we don't have any lights 24/7, at night, all night. As soon as they close, everything, closed down.
So there won't be that, BJ's has a similar setup, obviously, in Stoughton. When they have something on Route 24, you can see the price. You aren't gonna have any of that?
That's correct, John, right? Like you said, no signage advertising the price?
No, we don't do that. No.
Well, how are we gonna know if we're getting a
Right.
bargain?
Yeah. Which one do you wanna go?
I think there's an app for that nowadays.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So ideally, the flow of traffic would be for someone to go to the clubhouse first, and then on their way out, go to the gas station and leave.
So more often, fuel is purchased first, you're right, but either option works. So I work a lot with the Costco gas operations on the West Coast, and they have data from all over the world, all the sites, and I would say about 60% of the trips tend to be to the fuel first and then the warehouse. But the way we've laid it out, you could, circulation would work for either before or after the warehouse.
The parking spots next to where the fuel thing is.
In that area?
No, between the
To the
road coming
north.
out, yeah, right there. Are those existing now or non-existing?
Let me switch back to that, I believe.
They're existing, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think there might be a slight reconfiguration, but they're in that same general area.
If you wanna look at this one, you can see it
Yeah.
a little better.
Yeah, because I think on the existing condition, they're somewhat angled, whereas on the proposed condition, they're more at that 90-degree.
They're shown perpendicular to get some more efficient layout, more parking.
So my concern would be, as you're exiting that site, people are gonna be backing in and out of those spots, right? So you're gonna
There's-
have
there's
anybody
that.
trying to leave the fuel areas and have to wait for whoever's trying to maneuver into the sites, into those
Right.
spots.
You
And
would.
you can access those spots by going in the other direction, can't you?
And then, well, it's intended to only be southbound flow, so we've signed it and it'll have pavement markings to be south only.
Yeah, but you're talking about Saturday morning at a warehouse facility, club warehouse facility. I mean, you go spend 10 minutes at BJ's on a Saturday or Sunday and it's a nightmare in the parking lot. People don't follow any of the signs, they can't even see them half the time. I mean, I envision you're gonna have traffic going in two directions, people trying to leave the fuel site and they can't get out because they're waiting for, the traffic's just blocked, people getting in and out of those spaces. I don't know if there's a way to have a dedicated lane that isn't impacted by parking.
Well, I think the issue is that we're concerned with maintaining as much parking as we can. And
What's the parking obligation,
What
Jack?
about moving
Sorry.
moving the driveway part so that there's no parking, so that those parking spaces are on the other side, on
Oh, just
the lower
reverse it.
side, yeah. So you'd have back-to-back parking on that, I mean, just a suggestion, I would. Cause that's all new, that's gonna be all new asphalt and.
it is, yes.
Well, I don't think that's new asphalt, right? Because that's the existing. Just going back to,
It's difficult because we don't have a demo plan here, but
because I think generally we're in this area here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks
we don't
like
have
there's
that.
asphalt under it right now, so I don't know if you're gonna be
Oh.
putting in curbing or whatever you're gonna do to restripe the lines, but
Yeah, it's this area. I think it's pretty, let me double check what I think are.
so in my notes to myself, that aisle that we're talking about, that's perpendicular parking that's southbound one way, that's the second to last westernmost aisle today,
Okay.
roughly. So it's right there, right? The next, yep,
yeah,
yes,
that's what it looks like on this map.
right. Which today has angled parking and is northbound. John Alvarado, did you hear that concern with the perpendicular parking?
Yeah, yes,
Because if we made it angled, that might be more, in keeping with it being one-way southbound, but we would lose some spaces if we were to do that. And
yeah, I mean, if we do perpendicular, that's fine. The 90-degree angle parking is easier to park, I would say. But I mean, I hear the concern. I mean, and it's okay if we make it angle parking.
it would be,
John,
John, I think, yeah,
also,
sorry.
Also, I mean, something I wanna add, like, those parking spots, right, that are far away from the entrance, as well as some of the back, is where our employees park. So our members always try to be closer to the main entrance. And I mean, I give that, I mean, that will be John Harder to answer, but I think if we have enough space, right, between the cars and maneuver, and because it's a one way, I mean, I don't see that big of an issue. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
Right,
Problems.
I think the only concern I would say that I see is that it's difficult to enforce one way with perpendicular parking. That's the only, and I know we were seeking that just to be as efficient with our layout as we can. We get more parking that way. But if that's a concern, in a one-way scenario, we would narrow the aisle and have angled parking, and then it would be less likely someone's gonna go the wrong way because it's just too narrow.
Right, yeah, no, it's difficult. Yeah, I know, I'm very familiar with the site, so I know
Yeah.
what you're.
So, but even with
I'd
that,
like
you're
to-
still having people pulling out of the spaces as someone's trying to leave the fuel area. I mean, I'm just wondering if there's a way to avoid the exiting travel lane where you're sending everyone at the fuel site out. There's a way to avoid them passing parking spaces, or at least parking spaces from both directions. I just think that it's creating potential accident situations.
So if it was on one side, you're not as concerned
Well,
as.
it's less of a concern. I mean, I think ideally if you could find a way to create a queue that had some sort of separation from any of the parking spaces, that would be great. I don't know if that's possible. There may be, maybe just through curbing to do something like that, and then at least have a separation so that anyone backing up is not going to actually risk, unless they went over a curb, which is in and of itself just a natural stoppage. It's not gonna prohibit everything, but it'll prohibit some additional accidents. And, I'm thinking about like snow, I don't know what your snow removal plan is going to be and where you're storing snow on the site, but if you've got snow in the area that's blocking views and everything else, then I just envision that creating a lot of unique vehicles situations that will lend itself to accidents on the site.
Do you know how often this portion would be filled? This is the outer limits. Do we know how often we get out to this level of parking?
We didn't do a parking study here because the requirement is quite low, or we well exceed it, but this is some of the least desirable parking on the site now that we've eliminated that outside parking outside on the perimeter that I talked about earlier. So I think it would be in holiday periods and, when you'd see that really in demand, fully parked out.
And that's when these things can happen. That, and I have new drivers in my household. Parking lots are always a nervous spot. But, I mean, you're sending everyone from the fuel station out that way, so all the traffic has to go out that way.
Well, actually, no, you have the ability to, you use this parking to the north, so this is a two-way aisle here. It allows you to exit the fuel that way. You can also make a left out, and this is a two-way aisle, and continue. So if you were, most patrons, as I said, about 60% from gas operations data indicates that most go in first, fuel, and then would actually want to go make a left, not the right that you're describing. So most of the volume is going to go north and then into the main parking to find parking.
So that's my next question about the design. So how are you managing that signage to make it clear to people that if they want to actually now go to use the warehouse, that they should be not taking a right, following the car in front of them? They should be.
The good thing about the members only, it is people that become very familiar with the circulation because they're there, multiple times and they're not new to the site after their first visit. We could add signage because we would have regulatory signage to make sure that that's operating as outbound only, with stop and do not enter one-way signs. But we could also add guide signage and warehouse parking, egress or exit to your right.
Yeah.
So, but I guess back to this point, I hear the concern, but I think the smaller portion of traffic is going to be egressing that way. It's certainly not all. It's probably the 30 to 40% of the traffic making that right.
And I guess what we can do to, alleviate the concern is we change those, instead of being 90 degrees angle, so it's a true one way, so there's no confusion and people try to make a right and go the wrong direction. So that, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I do like that, John, just for enforcing the one-way, flow there.
I'm still not sure that I like that as the only solution. I still think you're creating issues, but it's helpful to know that you're gonna create some signage to send people, I guess, up to the left and then around into the rest of the parking. Although, that's gonna be, so you're gonna send somebody from the fuel station up and around, and then the first aisle of parking that they're going to get to is going to be angled in the wrong direction?
Correct, so they would proceed to the east, and you're right, they cannot make that first right, they would have to go to the next aisle, which is one way southbound.
And do you have signs there from that side of the parking lot?
They have arrows.
They have arrows, yeah.
Okay, I'm not a Costco member, so I don't know.
What's that?
I'm not a Costco member, so I
Oh,
don't know
yeah,
that
no,
parking
yeah,
lot.
no, they have arrows, they,
On the pavement.
yes,
Okay,
yeah, it's very well marked.
okay.
And it's pretty tough if you go the wrong way to try to get into one of the parking spots.
Yeah,
Even the people that pull all the way through to the other side, they have a tough time going against, they have to come out and around to go that right direction, so.
Could always make the parking over by the gas pumps for the employees only and get a shuttle bus to take it back through here.
what's the, right now with the plan that you have, what's the net change in spaces? 8,
21?
21.
21 net change?
So, existing 551, proposed 573,
So 22, sorry.
22.
Yeah, this is how they mark.
Okay, I have other questions about your site design. So as you're exiting, you're gonna have that right lane that will only be able to allow you to go into IKEA way?
No, it's a through right lane. So this
Yeah.
is dedicated left only, so you stay in the inside lane to egress, and then this is through right, so you can either go through to go west IKEA way, or right, same lane to go north on IKEA way.
And so West IKEA way is down the back way to get you to Turnpike Street? is that
Turnpike
right?
Street, yes,
Okay, that's what my question was.
yes.
And I do just want to note too, as far as site plan, that we do have to go back through site plan. We do have to give, all the reports that we submitted to you. We'll go through the site plan process as well.
That's, the traffic circle is actually in Avon.
And I know that was one of their primary concerns on site plan.
No, that's,
I do think, there was some coordination amongst the staff about how the things were gonna be peer reviewed and that, so I think both towns will receive the full plan sets and studies. I think, actually, this will be the vast majority that you've received.
And then my other question is, as you're entering from Stockwell Drive onto that turning circle, you'll enter into the site as a single lane and then you can, develop into 2 lanes, is that right?
Correct, so this is an exclusive right lane heading northbound to the roundabout, and then a wide exit lane, and it will very quickly open up before you get to the Jordan's Furniture driveway. So it'll open up, this is some striping, you can see our pavement markings here, dash markings to open up this left turn lane, and then this is a through right, similar to what we were describing in that westbound approach.
Okay, and then you're gonna have people who are trying to take a left into the gas station.
They'll be in their own lane, and stack in this lane, and they are only yielding to this single lane egress movement.
Which is everyone coming from the warehouse, and except for the ones who are decided to just get gas.
Correct.
Or get gas second.
Correct. So today there is just a single lane, so we wanted to ensure that there's an area to wait to make a left.
So that second lane will be dedicated to using the gas facility only.
That's
Is that
right. Correct.
And that will be marked accordingly? It won't be used by people trying to access the warehouse?
Well, correct. You'll learn pretty quickly that that left only lane just gives you access to the fuel facility. So it would be marked and signed accordingly.
Okay. And then my last question on your presentation here is you said something about the fuel tankers will not be involved in the queue. So where are you going to have the fuel tankers?
So they would follow the same, I'll put his mouse, okay, it's back here. Okay, so they would get into the left lane, just like traffic, enter the one-way aisle. And then there's an aisle here that's outside of the fuel stacking area. And this hatched area is where the truck would pull in. And then it's actually out of that aisle, so you could still bypass it. And then it's not within the queuing or stacking area for the fuel facility.
Okay. I have other questions, but that's on your written documents.
Well, I guess we'll be going through, so, I mean, these are all questions related to the BJ's one that you answered most of them anyway, so. Actually, did we get reports from the other departments in Stoughton? Did you get reports from the police and the fire and?
No, we have not obtained any reports from police and fire.
Yeah, and there's a traffic safety officer too that
Yep.
I'd be interested in their opinion about your proposed.
Would that occur during site plan review? Because, and I know this evening we're here for the use special permit, like, as I mentioned, to hopefully come for you for this use special permit, to make sure that this use is appropriate, with the understanding that for this project to proceed forward, we'd have to receive site plan approval, which would be peer reviewed and would be subject to the standards of the zoning bylaw for that.
I mean, the special permit has to have us make a determination about the adequacy of traffic flow and safety,
Understood.
so.
That's why
I think at least from a preliminary standpoint, we'd want to have some, we typically do get reports from police and fire and other departments as part of our use for special permits.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that, they can say that they may have, further opinions once they do a detailed review, but from a preliminary standpoint, I'd certainly appreciate it.
And would you, is it typical that the applicant reaches out directly to those departments?
Jack, it looked like Kristen had sent,
We had a preliminary meeting with planning board. I don't believe police were involved, but I think fire was. It was a Zoom meeting. Bill Roth, myself, Craig, and I think Mike Carroll. So, but that was just preliminary, basically, getting everyone on board with what's happening.
did Kristen send anything to any of the departments as seeking comments or anything?
I don't
know if
believe
that's her
so,
usual
because he's gotta
protocol.
go in front of planning and then conservation. So, planning is gonna be a lot.
Right, I realize that, I'm not asking you to do the work that I know you're gonna need to do with planning board, we'll get into the details of all this, but there's a couple of things at least that I'm interested in knowing, and like fire safety, I'd be interested in making sure that they think that there's sufficient, access there in case there's a fire within the fuel area. they can be able to access it and address it.
Right, we're designing the fuel facilities for the largest tractor trailer, WB 67, so that would be larger than a fire
Truck.
vehicle. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they could provide, I guess, police and fire in particular is who I'd wanna see some preliminary comments on, from.
Who in the state regulates this?
I think there are several different state regulatory things that that Costco needs to go through. I know they've had to do this at all their other facilities. I know there's fire marshal that they need to get certain approvals from. But obviously, any approval that was granted here would be conditioned on obtaining all the necessary permits and approvals from the state and any other authorities. Honestly, we'd be happy to take that as a condition. And Costco would do that nonetheless, I should say.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to get approval from the state before you can open it anyway.
I think before you open, correct. So I think building permit before you can do what would basically be a certificate of occupancy for the use. I believe you need to get that approved through the state.
Mm-hmm. I'm all set.
Jeff?
I don't know, I mean, we were talking about parking for a while, but I'm also a little curious about with the whole circular flow. Why do we have parking spaces on the left and the right of the gas bay as well? Like you see there's probably about, yeah, those right there.
Oh, as you enter, right.
Right.
We would intend for those to be employee spaces.
Okay, for like the gas attendant or whatever.
That and some warehouse
Yeah.
as well.
And then on the right-hand side, so you're talking about how you come around, you would have to make a left to go into the warehouse, but if you have all those spaces, back on the right-hand side of the gas bays, won't that create a conflict with traffic coming from that upper corner, with people taking that left and kind of dissuade people from taking lefts and then taking the right to then kind of loop around and kind of get lost in a circle?
So are you talking about the ability to connect here to the parking area?
Right there, yeah, well, I wasn't looking at that, but those parking spots right there that you were just hovering over, right? When you come down from there to leave, you're gonna probably wanna take that first right? And you'll be kind of conflict with people taking the left out of the gas bay to go towards the warehouse parking that you were describing earlier.
I see what you're saying. Right, I think that's gonna be a very limited volume because of the amount of parking spaces in this area, but I understand what you're saying, so the left out to go to the warehouse parking versus the right to leave.
That's new parking up there, right?
It is, yes. With, requires, because of the grades, a wall to be designed, and constructed along the perimeter.
That would be quite a walk to the warehouse.
It would be.
Alright. And I guess someone in theory could also take the left out there and take another left and go up there and park somewhere as well, right?
So, sorry to make, where's my
Um,
cursor here? Left out of the fuel
Yep.
facility?
And then make another left and go up there.
Yes, they could.
But they can't continue on, because it's a one-way coming out of the,
Right.
top
The mouse
there.
disappears. You would have to then make a stop at this stop sign and then make a left and you
Okay.
continue back through the egress area of the fuel. I think the goal with that, or the purpose of this connection, is to try to avoid a dead-end parking aisle here.
okay. Yeah, the only other question I have is on the Avon side, so I'm not gonna ask it here.
I'm good.
Do you have any questions?
Me, no. I've been to this, and I've been at BJ's and I've sat at both. Looks like it's gonna be a lot bigger than BJ's. So, my guess.
I don't like the BJ's parking
I
lot.
only put
I mean, it's a lot tighter at BJ's than
Yeah.
this is.
on the fueling stations. I know you're only gonna have 12 pumps. You're gonna have double hose. I just, watching people drive, getting to the middle pumps.
Right, we have the green and red indications, which is unique to Costco's operation, so that you know they're open. and
No,
we
no,
have-
I understand
yeah,
that, I'm just thinking about the people.
Right, but we have, and the spacing too is greater. Sorry, John.
Yeah, so what I was saying, like, seeing exactly what you're saying before on the earlier layouts of gas stations, the pumps, between each pump, the distance was 22, then went to 23 feet, now we're 28 feet. With that distance between pumps and the pass-by lane is enough room, so you don't have to do, I mean, it's an easy maneuver, so just with one movement, you're in front of the fuel pump, without getting too close to the other cars. So that's why we put it like 28 feet. So, and we're using this in the south when people drive huge trucks in Texas as well, and sometimes they bring in, trailers, etc. So, I mean, through experience, we found out that we need to get more space to avoid those issues that you're thinking.
Okay. There's gonna be a canopy over the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I got.
I have a couple other random questions. So the original special permit included an automobile services station or garage, is that in place?
And I think that was limited to just tires on there. There may have been a condition that it was for tire change. John, is that still in place? Is there the tire service station there?
Yes.
Yes.
The only thing that we do is change tires. We don't do any mechanical brakes or anything, it's just tires.
Will there be, electric charging stations at some point?
It will be when you
Oh,
talk to
they
the
wanna
planning
sell
board.
gas.
I think that, a planning board, if it's brought up there.
That's the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
The, traffic report and the stormwater report's gonna be peer reviewed at site plan review, is that right?
I think Craig's already seen it.
That's what it seems to me. A lot of time. If somebody wants to pay cash for the gas, where, are they going to an attendant? Or is that not an option?
There is no cash on the premises, it's just card.
Okay, so cash is not allowed.
Nope.
Oh, you can't pay cash at all?
Nope. It's
You
my
gotta use your
credit card.
Costco card.
What's that?
You gotta use your Costco card.
It's only got my picture, they won't give me anything on it.
Good. Okay, so just card, plus you're gonna have your membership card that you'll need to use, but no cash.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay. I think that covered my questions.
So if there's an attendee there, where do they stay? Do they have a place to stand or?
Yeah, there's that.
And we have in the northern states, when weather, there's something called a warming hut that is gonna place that so they can be inside. And also we have a small, we call it actually the warming hut, or the data enclosure, where it's all the electronics and components of the gas, and there is a space to the attendant or the person that is there enter that, and that, basically monitors the function of the fuel facility from that point.
So if we added a condition that said no diesel, that wouldn't be an issue, right?
Won't be an issue.
Okay, because we do have diesel at BJ's, and we have a lot of use by trucks with our BJ's facility because of the diesel option. So, and this would be in the same, I mean, it's the same concept, like it's right off 24, it's a very great location for these trucks to refuel.
Makes sense.
So I just want to make sure it creates a lot of traffic nightmares for the town, the fact that there's, I mean, it's fine, it's just I want to plan for it correctly now.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, in the East Coast, I don't think any of our gas stations have diesel.
Okay, that's fine, I just want to make sure, I want to make sure you understand that would be added as a condition of the use. And then if you wanted to change that, you'd have to come back to us, which may possibly result in a redesign around the traffic to account for
Agreed.
unexpected high volume
Understood.
Yes,
trucks.
no, that's fine.
Any more questions? What's the wish of the board?
No, we're gonna continue this to
Yeah.
get the reports.
And I'd like you to take a look at potentially doing something different around that egress link.
Would it be possible to close the hearing and do it all by submitting a written response in advance of the next meeting? Or what would be your preference for how to handle it?
No, because we can't take more information in once we close the hearing, so you've got to take in those reports. Potentially, you may look at a redesign and want to submit a different plan. We'd need to reference that plan in the decision.
Okay.
It would be helpful for you to note for us which particular plan you want us to rely upon for, like, this is a useful site plan that does seem to show everything, but I don't know if there's a particular plan that you want us to rely upon.
We have the full plan set there.
Right.
But, so for other particular items, because obviously we've got the landscaping plan, we've got the lighting plan, we've got all those things, so I don't want to point you to a specific plan. We have, maybe probably one of the better ones for an overall view would be the overall site plan, which we have included, so but we would have to make sure everything was brought up to do it. Would it possible to, I'm trying to think of a way to do this. Obviously, if you want to hear from fire and police, which I understand, would it be possible to condition a vote on having received the, confirmation from those departments that the project's acceptable? Or at least will be reviewed during, any substantive comments would be brought forward at site plan review.
I mean, I'd like to see some work done around that egress area to address the traffic flow and safety concerns that I have for the use. So, at this stage, I'm not comfortable doing that, but you don't have the butters, you don't have members of the public here. I
No,
think we're pretty open board, you shared what our thoughts are and concerns are. Those get addressed in some way. We expect the police and fire, we wanna know the police and fire don't have other concerns we haven't thought about from a preliminary standpoint. We'll be prepared to vote at that point in time. That's
Okay.
why I'm asking if there's a particular plan that you can provide to us that really will show something like this, where you've got your existing conditions overlaid with your proposed conditions, and we can reference that in our decision. Otherwise, we're referencing this whole piece, and if something changes, I wouldn't want you to have to come back before us.
I think we will though, because most of those plans do show the layout as it is, that they're all gonna need to be brought forward. Because then, otherwise we'll have an inconsistency amongst the plans that show the proposed condition.
Okay, I just don't see which one in here is mainly around the proposed conditions. I see a lot of,
And I think that's part of the issue is that most of them are the proposed conditions that you are seeing, so we will have to bring them all forward to make that change and have them approved that way as well.
How much time do you need?
We are, I think your next meeting is 2 weeks from tonight. We are currently scheduled to be before the Avon Planning Board in 2 weeks. And I don't think
Yeah.
we'd wanna run split
Is it
teams.
2 weeks? Do we have something in 2 weeks?
On the 18th, no, there's nothing on that.
I think we'd have to ask for the next meeting anyways, because we will be in front of the Avon Planning Board on the 18th.
Oh, okay.
So that would be May 2nd.
May 2nd?
Mhm.
Do we have something real
That's
big
the-
there? Yeah, but
yes.
they're not gonna have a lot.
Yeah, it's the 40B,
Oh, okay.
It's May 2nd.
yeah.
That's gonna be a lot, and then there'll be a lot of people there for that one.
One after that would be May 16th. There's nothing on there.
I'd rather go May 2nd. No, but May 2nd's that's not gonna be done in one night.
Yeah, that won't, definitely won't.
Yeah, the problem is you'll be on the second of the agenda and you'll have to wait basically all night.
Until that closes.
Yeah,
Um,
well, till adjourns.
sure.
So, this is the 16th? What would you say, May 16th?
May 16th would be the one
Is
after
that
that.
okay?
I'm just trying to think now, if, you said you have nothing on for 2 weeks from tonight?
No, nothing on.
Are you here, are you away?
April
That's school
18th.
vacation week.
I probably will be
Okay.
away that night.
I'm not, but, I just realized it's school vacation week, so I wanna be fair to you.
Yeah,
But, you know, we are scheduled to be before the Avon Planning Board, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think,
yeah,
it doesn't make
that-
sense
that-
for
yeah,
us to
that's not
split,
gonna
I guess,
happen,
to get to the 16th of May. John, is that acceptable to you, to push to May 16th?
I mean, yes, yeah, I mean, yes. Or I don't know, Kevin, what do you think? Can we, because the other one is planning board, right? On Avon. What if we move the planning board on Avon and come back in 2 weeks to get, final approval, so we can get a final decision on the zoning, here?
That one I know has already been noticed, you know, that's been published in the
Okay.
paper, and notice has been sent out on that, so we will need to attend in some capacity there.
You won't have a full board here either, potentially, that's the other issue.
Well, that's what I think.
Because it is school vacation week. So, I mean, the 16th
Because-
you'd be on first, which is, you wouldn't have to wait through it. You could do the second, you'd have to wait through the new 40B coming in.
And John, I would recommend not taking that May 2nd one, for the 40B issue here.
And I get reached.
Yeah.
No, because what I was thinking is, okay, let's take May 16th, and because also we can divide forces and we can be at the two towns at the same time, you know?
Sure.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, we can do it in 2 weeks, here in Stoughton, you know?
okay,
May 16th is, you're saying May 16th or April 16th?
April 18th.
I say April 18th, 2 weeks, because, Kevin can go to Avon, and Peter, or,
Yeah, but that's when we won't have a full
and
board.
Peter can go to, the corner, lawyer can go to the other town, and we can have the meeting at the same time. If in 2 weeks is possible for you guys, we can take that too. And we just, as I said, divide forces.
but if you don't, if the full board's not gonna be present, it sounds like, John, that they will likely not have a full board here in 2 weeks,
Oh,
so I think that
okay.
the May 16th date,
It's our school vacation week, that week, so
Oh, okay.
we don't have any alternates right now.
And actually, at the end of April, I'm not gonna be on the board, unless the town manager or somebody does something. I will be on some way or another, but
Are we on as an alternate? We'll have to take care of that then by the end of April, Gary.
yeah,
how would we, so,
no, I'll be on.
Okay.
I'm just,
okay,
I'm
got
trying to get off, but that's not happening.
it. For our hope, thank you very much, we appreciate your
Hotel
service.
California here.
So what are we doing? May 16th?
Motion to, continue case, what is it? 4306 to May 16th,
Yeah,
7:32 PM. Oh, no, 7:30 PM,
7:30.
7:30 PM, yeah.
all in favor, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so I understand, we'll be trying to reach out to police and fire, and we'll try to coordinate with staff on that to see the best way to collect comments from them. And then, we'll take a look at some of the parking, suggestions from this evening.
And possibly from them too. I don't know what they're gonna say.
Okay.